1993. So we were 18 holes, and just kind of a little brief about getting to the point where we are here. We had a very, very cold winter that winter of 93 into 94. And when springtime came around, all the grass was dead. We had a big winter kill. The previous green superintendent before me had put a chemical application on the greens, and so the greens had died before I ever got here. So anyway, with all that said, the management of Sandy Ridge Golf Course at the time, which was a group of gentlemen that got together and formed a company called Golden Triangle. And they were about 30 or 40 guys, and they decided they wanted to build a golf course. So this was some old farmland here that group got together, bought the golf course, built Sandy Ridge Golf Course, and it opened in 1972. And so matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and that's the old sign right there as you came in, and it's kind of where the sign is at Links Drive. That's where the River Landing sign now pretty much sits in the same spot. And so as we go through, we talked about here, it opened in 1972, and the designer was Gene Ham. And if you're a golfer in the North Carolina, South Carolina area, Gene Ham was big architect with a lot of golf courses down in the Myrtle Beach area. He grew up in Raleigh. He was a golf pro for a short period of time. He played in the 1958 PGA and also the 1960 US Open, but he was really more of a club pro. And then he got into golf course design work, and he started working with Robert Trent Jones. So they did some work at, I think it was Raleigh Country Club, and then he moved to Delaware to work with Robert Trent Jones up there, and then he ended up moving back here in the Carolinas and Virginia, and he's done about 60 golf courses. So some of his more notable courses down in the Myrtle Beach area are Azalea Sands, Eagle Nest, there's many other ones, but those are the ones that are were the popular ones. But anyway, so they build Sandy Ridge. It opens in 1972, and these guys built the golf course. And so I actually played golf here as a kid years ago. And what's so funny is we never really wanted to come out to Sandy Ridge because I grew up in High Point, pretty close to where you get on, 73, 74, that interchange. I grew up right there. So to me, coming to Sandy Ridge was like going to Charlotte. It just felt like it was so far away. We're like, we don't want to drive all the way out to Sandy Ridge. And so anyway, just to brag a little bit, I had one of the best scores I ever had out here when I was 17 years old. I shot 67. Yeah. But I was limping in. I shot 31 on the front nine. And so you can do the math and tell that things were not going as well on the back nine. But anyway, with that being said, it was here. And in 1993, I wanted to move back to the area. My wife and I started having kids. Sydney was born in 92. Her sister was born in 90, and we wanted to come back to this area. And my goal all along was to be a superintendent at a big-time country club. So I grew up in High Point, worked at Oak Hollow Golf Course all through high school and college, went to NC State and graduated. Got out, went to be assistant superintendent at Cape Fear Country Club in Wilmington. Then my first superintendent's job was Southern Pines Country Club in Pinehurst. And then I went to Porter's Neck in Wilmington, and that was my big-time country club. And it was. But the sad thing is after being there for about a year and a half, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It just kind of left me like, is this really it? I know that sounds bad, and there were some other things going on, but so we decided, my wife and I, we wanted to be back in this area. And all along, I was trying to work my resume, if you will, to where I could come back and be at one of the bigger country clubs in the Triad. So I come back, and after a few little times, I end up here at Sandy Ridge. And So it's weird because this is a long way from Porter's Neck, as far as condition, expectation, all this kind of stuff. And so I came out, and not to bore you too much with this, but we looked around, and a good friend of mine who was also my mentor, he was the superintendent of O'Collin Blair Park for years. He's the one that kind of took me under his wing, got me into this business, got me into school, and really helped me out a tremendous amount, just kind of moving forward with my life. And so his dad was the general manager here for a very long time. His name was Richard Briley. And so the guy had killed the greens. Things were a mess here. And all I remember is Sandy Ridge, most of the times, if you had grass in the fairways, that was a problem. I mean, there wasn't much grass. So anyway, he was kind of looking after the golf course till they could find somebody to be the superintendent. So he knew I was looking for a job. And because what I tried to do when I left Porter's Neck was getting in the nursery business, and that didn't work. So, and I really miss golf. So he said, come out there and take a look. You'll be surprised. And I was like, Rick, I can't go from Porter's Neck to Sandy Ridge, man. I'm really sorry, but I just can't do that. So anyway, we come out here and we start riding around, and there's grass everywhere. And I was like, man, this is incredible. So anyway, long story short, I took the job. And so my dad and I came out here and we're videoing it. But in November, nothing's green. Well, so we're watching the old VHS tape at my parents' house. And my wife walks in and she goes, where's that? And I said, because now my wife, the only golf courses she knows are high-end country clubs. So she looks at it, and I said, well, that's where I'm going to be working. Well, she disappears. I don't know where she goes. And so I go find her in another room just bawling. And I said, Sally, what's wrong? She's like, what have you done to us? She says, Scooter, those rock areas, you called those cart paths. What is it? I said, Sally, not everything is Porter's Neck. And she worked when we were in Pinehurst, she worked at Pinehurst National. So anyway, long story short, we had the big winter kill in '93, and the owners of Sandy Ridge decided they wanted to now get in the game. So they came in, we regrassed all the fairways, resodded all the tees, we got the greens in good shape, paved the cart paths for the first time, and we did all this from June 8th, 1994, and on Labor Day, it looked like a brand new place. And so it was really cool, and it was really rewarding. And honestly, the Lord was really behind us in that endeavor, because we did not have an automated irrigation system. We didn't have at all. In the fairways, you had to go plug these heads in that just, would shoot halfway across the world, but you still had to go do it. And so to try to do all that with sprigs and all this kind of stuff, I mean, it was a leap of faith. And, I was young, and I was like, man, that's no problem. We're just going to go do it. Well, every afternoon, we got this beautiful, gentle shower, and it just worked out. I mean, like I said, it was of the Lord, really, because there's no way we could have maintained it and got the success we had so early. So anyway, as we move on now, I'm going to show you some pictures of vantage points of what things look like, and these most of these before pictures are 1997. So this was the Presbyterian Home, or Bright Spire now, had bought the golf course in '96, and we were in the process in '97. We were going to start construction in '98 and then build River Landing. Well, it didn't happen that way, but I thought it'd be kind of neat to have some pictures of things to what it looked like before and what it looked like after. So this is number 9 green from behind it in 1997. Whoops, I pushed the wrong knot, didn't I? There we go. And this is during construction. Now, this would be basically standing on the patio of the clubhouse. So as we're looking, like all that right there, that's Thistleburn. And all this over here is basically the main building. And then that road, John Knox, comes right through there. So as you can tell, our little pump house was there, which hides behind all the shrubbery we have over there. And then we go to it, and that's what it looked like in but this was about 2017. And then we had to add another one to it that goes to now because we have the clubhouse up there. So you can see things have changed a lot in just that little area right there. But it still amazes me just what has taken place. Can you see? Or what has taken place in what, in my mind, almost seems like a short period of time, but it really, looking back, it's been 20-some years. So here we are now looking down number 9T, and this would be the Morrises. Y'all don't live too far from that spot right there. And as we move into, that was 97. That was here again about 2017. And so you can see, quite a difference there. So pretty interesting. And then this is number 8 green. And we're looking, from the back of the green, looking back. And right back there is the old clubhouse. These were trees. This was how thick the trees were coming down Links Drive, because that was the entrance into the club. And then we move it, and this here again, probably 2017. Well, it says it right there. And then, now this is crazy. That view has not changed on number 8 green looking back at midnight since the time I've been here. So that's the one thing that hadn't changed. And then there we go today. So those nights you're out here watering without the automated system, it was number 1. Yes, it was. This was number 1. The only hole, and in a minute here, we're going to see an aerial view, and I'll show you a little more about that. But this is number 8 green looking towards Sandy Ridge Road, which all this, where's my little thing there? All this right here is the berm. And basically they're starting to build that berm during that picture. So this was about 2000, right around year 2000, somewhere around there. And then we look at it. Now this is the path that goes to Marsh's Garden and to 9T. So as you can tell, that looks a little different as well. And this hole right here, which is now Niblick Court, was hole number 2. And those houses back there, that barn and all, that's all still there. So that's just right, kind of where the construction trailer is right here. That's very similar, or the very similar location to where the guardhouse is. So that's the picture, probably 2017. Now this is hole number 14 on the old Sandy Ridge Golf Course, which was a par 3. And right down in here is kind of where the little dog park is. 4 green sits back there. And this was obviously, as you can tell, a very tight hole. It was a short par 3, but it was a tough par 3. And it looks like, and that's what it looks like now. So that's just a little pathway through there. Yeah, it is. It was there. All the ponds were that you see on the property now were here, except the big one on number 5. That was a creek that ran all the way through. Now, this is when it gets fun to me. All right. This was the old, at the time, number 5 hole now was number 16. So when we first started, this was hole number 5, or the back of 16, which is now the current number 5, looking kind of towards Glen Eagles. And then it went to looking like that, and then it became this. So that, to me, is one of the just like, whoa, that's things that really changed quite a bit. And that's a pretty good change right there. Yeah. Crazy and exciting. I tell you what, back here, let me back up a minute. The 14th hole, the little par 3 that is now the path going to Pleasance Village, the pond over there to the right of that path, there was a tee behind it, kind of that grassy area. That was the 15th tee, and you would hit back to this direction and it would land in this area here. And then you would hit to behind these trees, and where that old 15 green was pretty much now where the cooling tower is behind the building, because number 4 green, which then was 13, sat here, and the 15th green sat right there, and then you would finish 15 and then come back to this hole here. So just a little something to confuse you there. Okay, now we're looking at number 6 green. The par 3 at that time was number 17. And as you can tell, now we're going towards what would be hole number 7. And you see the tee for number 18, that hole was a par 5, which now it's number 7, which is a somewhat short par 4. But and this is the building of it. And so right about there is Ron Finn's place. Right about there are the Gales. And right over here, the Drennans. And so, all that, and it was level. And they just started digging, coming down John Knox Drive and digging out and just bringing a lot of that dirt right over here. And then it ended up being that. So, funny story, they built that wall. They were building a wall, and they were about halfway through it. And the blocks weren't fitting flush. It's like somebody went through and just every now and then just punched some and pushed them back in. And the guy who was doing who was the construction superintendent, he called the company on it, and it turns out it was a defect in the blocks, that some of them weren't the same size even though they were coming in. So what'd they do? They came in there and tore that wall down and put the right one back. And nobody was happy about that, but we weren't going to accept that. So, but as we get into some of our aerials, when I wanted to get aerial pictures in 1997, there was no such thing as a drone, or at least nobody could get one. So a friend of mine knew a guy that had an ultralight. So this guy comes and takes a camera, and up he goes, and he's flying all over the property in an ultralight. Now, I would never get in that thing. Even back when I was younger, I felt like I was a little more reckless, but I was never into that, and his was not that nice. So here's an aerial, and where we are now is number 9 hole. Okay? And there's the pond, and that was there, and under here is Niblett Court, and Thistleburn is running somewhere right along there. So that was hole number 8. Hole number 9. Number 9 has always been number 9. For a short time, when we first went to 9 holes, we kept number 8 1 and number 9 2. But there was no river landing, and number 9 was a very difficult hole. And it was slowing up play, so we decided to not have that in the first 2 holes. So we decided to go ahead and make it number 9. And plus, we didn't want people finishing all the way back on 7 greens so far away. So we changed the 9s, configured the 9s to what they are now. But this was hole number 4, and that is pretty much right down that lane is where John Knox goes. So, like I said, this was in 1997, and this is what it looked like then, and that's what it is now. So you can see that the trees have grown quite a bit. They've grown in, and of course, it really was interesting when Sydney and I were doing this, because sometimes you just kind of forget, life keeps moving forward, and then you just kind of go, wow, this has really been a big transformation. So, and this is another aerial view, obviously, of hole number 2, and this is Sandy Ridge Road. So there's no berm, Number 2 was right there. And if you look back in here, kind of back along that wood line, that is the woods. All that wooded area there is Pleasance Village. Now, the original purchase of the golf course did not include that parcel of land. So back here where the green is and all you're looking at, that's kind of Hayes Short, and then it goes and turns here. And like I said, these 2 buildings are still here. That's the rental, that's the house that we own, and then this is the house right on the corner, and our main entrance guardhouse is right in there. So, and obviously you can tell there's no berm, nothing across the street. You can see that driveway, there was a little house right there that for some of you who've been here for a while, that house was there till they started this. It was abandoned for a long time, but yeah, that was it. And number 2 was a very drivable hole. For whatever reason, this ground right here was hard as a brick, and you could land it right in there and it would just run for days. So, and then right back here, yeah, was number 3, which was a little par 3. So, and then that's what we kind of got now. So, and you can see kind of back in the, there's Pleasance Village back in there. But they built the berm up, and the berm all that there came from an area down. Remember I showed you the slide earlier of 5T looking back? Well, in that area was kind of a little boggy area that just stayed wet all the time, and it couldn't be used for anything. They couldn't use it for road beds. They couldn't use it for the slabs for the foundation for the homes. So they trucked a lot of that up here to build that berm. And I contend that's one of the reasons that even when we get really, really dry, that berm never really shows that it's struggling for moisture. Some areas just crumble up and about burn up when we don't have rain for 2 days in the middle of the summer. But this up here, it stays pretty lush all the time. So, and then this is what the old clubhouse looked like. And putting green. There's the old putting green. This was number 8T, obviously going this way. This is what is now Links Drive coming here. And that was the old clubhouse, and this was the old cart barn. And you can see how wooded it is. And believe it or not, the clubhouse pretty much sits. Obviously, it takes up more space, but it pretty much sits where that one sat. But, and then it goes to this. So that's pretty impressive. Yeah, our clubhouse is outstanding. I think it is really, really cool. So, we had to shorten hole number 8 because I think the tee was more right in here and the putting green was more right in there. For those that were here in the beginning, this grassy area, or remember the old clubhouse or the old clubhouse / maintenance building, that was the front parking lot of that area, and the building sat more right in here. I may have one picture of that, but believe it or not, I don't have many of those. But that was really, that's just a huge transformation right there.
Now, number 1 now used to be number 10, right?
Yes. Yeah, because what we kept on the holes we play now are the majority of the back 9. Number 1 was 10, 11 was 2 was 11, 3 was 12, 4 was 13. And remember the little par 3 I showed you that was Pleasance Village? We did away with that hole and did away with 15, and then we jumped down. And 5 was number 16, number 6 was 17, and what we play now is number 7 was 18. And I'll show you something here in a minute. I think it's in this next one.
Why did you take the old clubhouse down and move it over across the street for that maintenance building? What happened to why did that happen?
This one here?
No, I mean the old clubhouse was gone. Like when we came here, that was gone, and you had that old maintenance with the roll-up door.
Right.
That was now the quote clubhouse.
Yep.
Why did you make that change? Why did you take that old one down?
The one that was right here? because we needed this because we reconfigured the road when we built the hybrids. It pushed everything out.
No, he's asking about any really old clubhouse that you had. We tore that down.
Oh.
And why do we tear it down and move it into your main?
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Thank you for that. We had to tear the old one down because it had a bunch of asbestos, and we had to get it. And so then the idea was always to put a clubhouse back here, but who all was in the room? It wasn't supposed to take that long to build a clubhouse. So that's why we didn't. But I will say this. That's why we just tagged it on to the end of the maintenance building, but the timing was perfect for when we built this one.
If we had done it then, it would have been a 2,000 square foot clubhouse. So
Yeah.
you and I were just waiting our time to make sure we got it to be the right size.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to say. We would not have built this when we originally planned, so it's been a huge blessing. But yeah, that's really neat. Okay, this is when it gets a little bit fun, or if it hadn't been fun already. So now here we are. We're basically at the intersection of Lynx and Iona. And if you would just you'll see in a minute, but right over here, hello? Oh. Yeah, right over here would be kind of where the clubhouse is, but I'm not going to give too much away. So we're basically, that little corner of water right there, that's the pond, that's this pond behind the building. So you're looking back, and this was 18. So this is 18 green. Number 7 green now is right up here on that hill. And that little building you can see way back there was our old maintenance building. And I mean, that didn't even have power. Well, it had a little bit of power, but no running water. When I say a little bit of power, we were not to code as we ran extension cords all over the place in there just to have some power. There was no heat, no anything. It was a wood stove. But so that was going back there, and that road, that cart path split was just the ride or the road to get you back to that building. But I don't know if you guys remember that little piece of cart path that used to be behind 7 green that looked like it went to nowhere. Well, that's where it was, right there. So now the cart path, comes down this way, but it used to come across. And those beech trees that sit, if you're sitting at the intersection of John Knox and getting ready to turn right onto Lynx, over to the left, there's 3 beech trees that are planted right there together. The cart path for number 18 used to go to the left of those, and they actually have an inscription in there that somebody had carved in, like JK loves LK or something like that. So, but yeah, those are the trees there. So they're basically, it shared a cart path between number 9 green and 18 green to get you back up to the clubhouse. And so that's when construction started. And you can tell now, you can plainly see the pond back there. And that mound of dirt right there now became the mounds back here by the pond where we put the nativity scene at Christmas. So that's those ponds. And way back there in that back corner, you can see that pile of dirt. That's where the pavilion is back in Williams Village. So, and that's where all the best dirt on the whole property was, right there and right there. And that's where, the grass is the best most of the time. So, and then if you look at it now, well, this was in 2017. That's the looking back now. So that's changed a lot. And that's really cool. And then now that I've only have just a few more slides to go here, but this was the old, this was Lynx Drive, because this was built coming down here, but you can see, how many trees were there and all this kind of stuff. Right there's the old garden boxes from years ago. And basically what we're looking at over here is Caldwell Village. So that's the look from today. Actually, that's the look from Monday. Because that's when I took the picture. Or I didn't. One of my guys on my crew has a drone and he did it. So, and this is Caldwell Village. That was, all of that's Caldwell Village, and there's the house up there, the brick house that's right next to the ambulance place. So that's it. Yeah, there we go. And then this is what we look at now. As you can tell, tucked right in there is that little house, just for reference. So, and then as we go here, now we're looking, right here is the top of the old building. And then we're looking down, this is going number one. You know what we're looking at. We're looking back here. And then right here is where our current maintenance building and transportation building is. And there we go there. So it does have heat and water, and we don't even have to use extension cords. So it's really awesome, and that is a very nice building, and we're very thankful for that. And then what I do, now I just threw this in here. One of the guys on my crew, and I'll give him the credit, he's the guy on this mower right here. He's a football coach. He's an athletic director. He's been with me since 1995. And he came up to me one year and he said, he still works on weekends with me to this day. But he said, you know, every team I've ever been on, we have a team picture. He said, and I thought, well, you know what? We need to do a team picture. So this was our first team picture. And I'm trying to think, let's see, for those of you that remember, that know, that's Scott, that's Ray, and I don't think there's anybody else on that picture that's still here other than Coach Bear. And there's Buddy. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Buddy. Stephen is not. He'll be in one of the next ones. So we jumped to this one, and this was 2012, and there's Steve, and there's Holly, who was our first goose dog. But as you can see, our crew's getting a little bit bigger. So now we've got Jeremy, Trevor, there's still Steve Bear, there's Scott, and there's me back there. So this is the only picture I've been in, was this one. And so I won't bore you with all these, but we started doing it every year. So we try to pick a different location every time. And so, you know, here again, we're very blessed to have Trevor, Jeremy. Steve should be in there. Where's Steve? He must have been off that day, but he was there. And I told you an untruth. I'm in that one too. And there's Ray back there on the far left. And this is my favorite one. This is the one we did. And so then when COVID hit and all this kind of stuff, we kind of got away from doing our team picture. But it's just, you know, we're really blessed to have guys that just stick with us, that work here, that love River Landing. They love their jobs. They love the residents. They just really enjoy the culture here at River Landing.
Hey, Scooter, is Sally glad she stuck with you?
I hope so. Yeah, she has. Matter of fact, we both consider this just a huge blessing from the Lord. Because to be honest with you, going back, when they came in and I saw the guys wandering around looking and they were in their suits and all, we knew something was up. And so when they ended up purchasing the golf course, I was, you know, just being honest, extremely disappointed. Because we had put all this effort in to turning the golf course around. We went from being a golf course that, you know, not a lot of people would come to just because of its reputation of, you know, not being in very good condition. And then there was a lot of things that went on in the clubhouse, you know, a lot of card playing, a lot of stuff that could be considered intimidating for just anybody coming off the road. So we turned that around, and there's one lady in here today, her husband was a big part of that. Glenda Kemp, her husband, and I've known the Kemps for quite a while. Their daughter's fantastic, and she's married to probably my best friend. And, but anyway, they really showed a lot of support for me and trust. And we came up with this grandiose plan, and they said, there you go, make it happen. And so we did it, and next thing you know, 2 years later, they're talking about selling. And it happened. And but then as I got to know the people within the PHI Bright Spire group, it became very apparent that this was a great move for the future. And so it was just really outstanding. And then, then Tom came on board, and that's been just a huge blessing because he's the best that I've ever worked with and worked for. And it's just, and the residents, I mean, it's really, really a great place to work. And I really didn't intend to get into all that, but the opportunity's here, and I just want to thank all of y'all for your support for many years. You back us, you support us, you encourage us, and it makes it easy for us to come to work every day to do what we do to make your home as nice as we can make it. So we're thankful for that, and but anyway, it is a fantastic place. I mean, it's just, I could continue to talk about that. But anyway, that's really about all I have. If you got questions, I'd love to answer them.
Yes, tell us about the goose dog.
Okay. Well, as you can tell, our first goose dog was.
Can you repeat the question because it's recorded?
Okay, yeah. The question was, tell us about our goose dog. Our first goose dog was Holly. And when we first opened River Landing, everything was grass seed, and it was the golden corral for geese. I mean, they were everywhere. It wasn't uncommon to have 160 geese out here. And so, when people first started moving in, oh, the geese are so beautiful, we love it. 2 days later, we got to get rid of these geese. So anyway, we went through a goose, y'all go somewhere else program, and our dog Holly came in and did a really good job of doing that. And so unfortunately, we had to put Holly down, I don't remember how many years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. So it was right before the expansion of, and Holly was fantastic. So then we decided, well, we don't really need a dog because Holly worked herself out of a job years ago anyway because we didn't have any geese. Well, then they start showing back up, and we had a company that we were using, and what it was costing us to do that, we just went ahead and we were already equipped. We had a little kennel. We knew how to work the dog, so we got a new dog, and her name is Stella. And Stella is a great goose dog, but Stella's not the friendliest dog. Now, Holly was super friendly, but Stella is territorial. And oh, yeah. So we get Holly. And the whole thing about getting rid of geese is you just got to agitate them to the point where they just don't come back. And they start learning your schedule. If you're the dog showing up every day at 3 o'clock, well, they start coming at 5. And so we're having to do all this, and then they get in the water and they think they're safe. So the good thing about Holly is, and both of our dogs are border collies, which I didn't realize they're not natural swimmers. So they're trained to do that. So we get Holly, and she comes in, well, they jump in the water. Well, she's not having it. She will not get in that water. And Steve, who works in the pro shop, was basically her handler. So he was getting very frustrated because she'd get in the water some, but she really wouldn't just go in there. So Steve decides one day that he's going to demonstrate. So, he's going to lead by example. So Stella's, Holly's on the edge. She won't get in there. Well, Steve takes his boots and all that, and off he goes. And he swims across number 9 pond. And Holly just stood right there and had no interest getting in that water with him. Long story short, we ended up having to take Holly back to get retrained. And then she did a great job. But now Stella is not a swimmer either. And when we got her, the lady said, look, she's really not going to swim for you, but she'll do everything else. And it's really not been an issue with that. But yeah, that was funny because Steve, he was so frustrated. No. We don't. No, they won't do that. And what's funny is they naturally won't go after them. Like both of our goose dogs will chase a squirrel and a rabbit in a second. They may run right by a goose. So you have to give them the command, and then when they hear that command, it's on. But they don't bark. They're chasing. Yeah. Now, what I want to know, I kind of do. We've never had one catch one. So I don't know what they'd do if they did catch one. But I don't know. They might be scared. But anyway, they run them off, and that's pretty much the thing. But here again, you've got to be there when those geese land. That dog needs to be present. And so for that first run through, it took a long. We were here at 6 o'clock at night. We were here at 7 o'clock at night, 5 in the morning. Whatever we had to do to make sure whenever the geese landed, that dog was there. And then eventually they just went somewhere else. So we're thankful for that.
What's the status of the land around this, land that we already have for either expansion or anything else? I know we have some houses to the we have some houses to the right of the property that, we've acquired, and maybe there's others I don't know about. But what's the future of the land around us?
That's a good question. And I don't know the answer to that. So I can't speak to that one. Tom?
Yeah, you may or may not know this, but we own 60 acres back behind number 3. So, and there's a possibility for owning more acreage there. We've inquired about other acreage that's around us. We've been trying to get that corner house for about 20 years now, I think. And they rent that house out. But I think then when they increase the road at Sandy Ridge, that house is going to go away naturally anyway. So we're constantly looking at potential property around us, just, if nothing else, just to have more border around us, to be quite honest with you. We like having that border around us. So hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
What is happening over the pond on Witherspoon Drive? I know there's been a lot of surveyors there, and the pond was dropped lower
Yes.
down, and now it's back.
Yeah, what we're having to do is, as you can tell, with the island that's in there, it wasn't designed to have an island. So they're checking to see what our capacities are as part of the stormwater management. Everything drains into the river that runs to the left of number 3, which is part of the deep river, and we can only put in so much water at a certain rate. And so they're just checking to see if that pond now does not hold as much as it used to, or it's just fine. So I still hadn't got the results of that yet, but at some point we may have to get rid of that island. Yeah.
There's hills growing up in the pond by the diamond.
Yeah, but that should stop.
Longer, and
Right.
they've got structure for bass.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, for fishermen, we love it, but if it's up to us, we wouldn't care.
Scooter, was there any further discussion about changing the putting green and expanding it? And also a driving practice area?
The thing about the practice, I'll tell you the practice one first. The thing about the practice area is trying to find a place to where it fits aesthetically, if you will, with the way our clubhouse looks. And then the next thing is it going to be noisy? Is it like, because if somebody if we picked an area that was close to the hybrids and people are out there hitting golf balls, is that going to be irritating to hear you trying to sit on your porch and you hear whoosh, 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 all the time? That's not like all day, every day, but those type of things. So we've not ruled that out at all. We're just trying to find where we think might be the best place. And right now, and a place that's not so far off the beaten path. That's where we are right now with that. And the putting green, I've been in kind of talk with the guy that built it, because what we're trying to do is really get that valley out of there. And I think if we built it up, we're not going to make it like super big, because I just don't think we need a big putting green, at least to this point. But the idea was really that you would kind of putt through that swell, and you'd have two flat ends. Well, over time, it's settled a little bit. We thought we kind of had enough in there for settling, but it's settled to the point where there's not too many flat places on there. So we'll be looking at doing something, and we're just trying to figure out what's the I won't say the easiest way, but the most economical way to do without maybe just starting over, because we don't really want to do that if we don't have to. But we've got a few plans that we're looking at, but it probably now won't be till in the fall, because the grass, that growing season for that grass is really fall to July 4th. And then really when you get into the hot summer months, it's just surviving. So we wouldn't want to do anything there and completely take it out of play for a long period of time.
Scooter, what about a golf simulator?
Well, here again, that's another situation that it's basically space. We have actually talked about that. And, there's some other things around. There's these little things popping up all over the Triad. There are these, they got simulators, and they've got, a little bit of eatery with them. I'm not talking about Top Golf, but, those kind of things. And, that's something that we're looking to see if, there's a possibility down the road that we could do that. And maybe that would even replace the hitting net. So.
There's part of the golf lore that I've heard here, that the last time you cleared out the pond on number 9, that there was something on the order of 15,000 golf balls that came along.
That's correct.
Many of mine are in there now, and I'm wondering, is there any chance anytime soon that I can either get them back or buy them back?
This is crazy. I've got a message on my phone right now. The guy called me this morning that wants to come out and dive for balls. So we'll see if we get 15,000 this time. But if y'all have not heard that story, we used to have the balls removed out of number 9 has always been a very difficult hole. And I would guess that 2 out of every 4 people that play it hit it in the water. Some have even told me they think it's 3 out of 4, and maybe even 4 out of 4. But for a long time, they dove for the golf balls, and then the diver wanted to do it more efficient, so he got this pulley system that would run this retriever across the bottom of the pond, kind of like what you see them picking up balls on the driving range. Well, it just made a mess. I mean, it stirred everything up. The ponds looked muddy. And I told him, I said, look, if you're not going to dive for them, we're not doing it this way. And he said, well, that's the only way I do it now. And I said, well, then we're done. So he left, and about that time, we were still open for a little while. Then we got into construction, and we just didn't play that much. And so we were open, I don't know how long we had been open as River Landing. But this guy comes in and he says, hey, does anybody get the balls out of your ponds? And I said, no. And he said, well, I'd be interested. And I said, well, how do you get them out? And he said, well, I dive for them. I said, have at it. So he jumps in there, and I'm telling you, the first time he went in, he came out of there, and I thought he'd seen Loch Ness or something. Because he comes out of there, and he's just like pulling his little mouthpiece out, and he goes, I cannot believe how many golf balls are in there. So he ended up getting a friend. So they went in there and dove out, and they started just bringing out bag after bag after bag after bag, and it ended up being 15,000 balls. So it was crazy.
How do you keep those balls from getting into that pump and spewing out? Well, that's what I keep waiting for. To see the balls fly.
That pump's too far off the ground. But if we let that pond get too low, it might shoot golf balls out. That'd be kind of interesting, wouldn't it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had a resident, I won't say his name, but he was hunting golf balls, which is funny because that becomes a lot of people's pastime when they move in here. And so he was in there, and I think the pond was down a little bit. Well, he stepped in, and he couldn't get out. And so, I mean, he's giving it this, and he was a bigger gentleman too. I mean, tall and, good size. And so we go over there, and he's like, Scooter, you got to get me out. And he said, I can't get out. And I said, well, the only thing I know to do is we'll just have to get a tractor and tie a rope around you and pull you out. And he was like, you can't do that. You're going to rip me in half. And I said, well, curl your toes and let's see what happens. So, but we didn't necessarily yank him out with that, but we kind of moved him a little bit, and then he got out, but his shoes stayed in the pond. So, yeah, there's been a lot of little stories it's been really interesting. So, but anyway, I think we're about to run out of time, so if anybody's got one more question, I'll answer it. If not, I think he had more than one. So, but anyway, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you taking the time to come. I hope it was worth your time, and I enjoyed doing it. So thank y'all very much. And thank you again to Sydney. Way to go, Rue.